Heyo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV today as we bring the hammer down on Dark Phoenix in our official review and reaction show. You know, I went into this movie thinking that at the very least it could not possibly be as bad as the X-Men's Last Stand's telling of the Phoenix Saga, but man, was I wrong. And it doesn't matter what you want to blame. You could blame the ever-moving release date. You could blame the rumors and all of the reports of the reshoots, thanks to it being too similar to some other movie that was coming out. You could blame the merger with Disney. You could blame the backstage drama. But no matter what you choose to blame, you could damn sure bet on one thing. All of these factors contributed to Fox giving us the absolute worst X-Men movie I have ever seen, and we are going to talk about it right here and right now on an all-new episode of Hammer in Hollywood, as it's time to take down the Dark Phoenix herself. Let's do it. If you haven't seen it, don't. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. It is one of the most useless, unnecessary, very much not needed productions that has ever hit a film screen. It felt like garbage watching this movie. I felt like crap. I was struggling to keep my interest. I really thought they were going to come out swinging and maybe show the MCU that they do have a little bit something left in the tank. Fox has given us a couple of gems. They kicked off this whole thing 20 years ago in a very good way. I'm a very big fan of the original X-Men and X2. They took a really big bad step with The Last Stand, and they botched the telling of the Dark Phoenix saga, and then they did it again. I was never really a fan of the relaunch with the X-Men First Class and everything that came after, thanks to the recharacterization of Mystique. She's one of the biggest mistakes in this whole entire franchise, and I'm going to get started on this review in just one final warning. Spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen this movie, like I said, don't waste your time, don't waste your money. Just let me tell you about it and save yourself a whole lot of heartbreak and a whole lot of grief. Because the first huge mistake is the whole portrayal of the Mystique Raven character, whatever you want to call her. Since the First Class reboot, she has been portrayed as a sympathetic figure. She has been made part of the X-Men team, a very essential part, at times coming across as the leader of the X-Men. But that's not really so much of the problem as it is how we end up with this character. In this movie, Raven pretty much turns on Charles Xavier for reasons that I'm not really sure of. They painted Professor X in a corner of being a selfish-minded person, that he's now enjoying the limelight, now that mutants are accepted worldwide. He's taking calls from the president, and he's putting the team in situations that they're not ready for. These are the X-Men. Who else are they supposed to call? You want them to just pick up the phone and call the Avengers over at that other studio and do this movie instead? I don't understand. They're the X-Men. Who else are you going to call when there's something going on in space that needs to be taken care of? I don't know. Isn't this their movie? Like, why wouldn't they be prepared for a scenario such as this? And Raven is the one telling Charles, well, you're in this all for yourself. At one point stating that, oh, we all know what the X stands for in X-Men. Pretty much hinting at the point where he's like, oh, well, the X stands for Xavier. No, it does not. The X does not stand for Xavier. He has never, to my knowledge, really put himself over the team. The X stands for the X gene, or X genome, whatever you want to call it. And that's where he took the name from. It has nothing to do with himself. Professor X being painted as the villain in this film. Like he turned on his team, and he put them in a situation to fail. And it cost Raven her life. Because he also is the reason behind Jean Grey being suppressed for all these years and having this Phoenix power suddenly take hold of her and make her want to kill everybody because of all the secrets in her family, and her dad didn't want her and Xavier was going to take her, and all this melodramatic bullshit. All of that is part of the story between Xavier and the Dark Phoenix and how he blocked in her mind. We've seen this story before. We know how it goes. But Raven, being the champion of the X-Men, just standing up for all of her fellow X-Men. They're going to free the X-Men from Charles Xavier's grasp. We should have been saving them from you. What are we talking about here? It goes next level with that. And it doesn't come off very well with Jennifer Lawrence's I don't care, phoned in bullshit performance of this Mystique Raven character. Just turning on Charles Xavier. Making him the villain because there are no other villains in this film. Magneto comes in and all of a sudden he wants revenge. Raven is dead thanks to the Dark Phoenix. A moment that was spoiled by the trailer, so you couldn't even latch on to anything really emotionally because you all already knew it was coming. We all knew Lawrence wanted out of her contract, and we all knew this was the end of this whole story, so we knew what was coming. There was no shock value to it. But now Magneto wants revenge. He's mad at the Phoenix for taking out Raven. Wasn't it like 2 movies ago this guy was trying to take her out himself? All of a sudden, he feels remorse for what he did. They give him this bullshit Genosha-like island. And why are they giving him shit anyway? Why are they giving Magneto an island of land or whatever it is to go and live peacefully when he was just one of the 4 members of the Horsemen of Apocalypse? Trying to destroy the entire world. Well, here's your reward. What? How does that make him a villain? He didn't give a shit whether Raven was alive or dead on multiple occasions, the character of Magneto. Now, all of a sudden, he's so emotionally traumatized. Oh, the Phoenix killed her. I'm gonna get that bird. Why? It makes absolutely no sense. It's just extra added melodrama trying to make you guys give a shit. The worst thing they could have done with this film is taken it out of its original setting, which was outer space. You know what I would have done? If I was a Fox executive with this movie and we were a little bit behind schedule or whatever the case may be, but we were scheduled to come out before all of the Marvel movies this summer, every single one of them, and they took steps and made reshoots and made changes because they heard it was going to be too close to the Captain Marvel movie, I would have told Captain Marvel to go fuck herself. Guarantee you, if they would have seen what was coming with that Captain Marvel movie, they should have just kept the story the way it was. They would have been able to say that they did it first, and everyone would have said that Captain Marvel was a copy of Dark Phoenix. But essentially, when you take the story of the Dark Phoenix out of space and put it into some rural city area like Red Hook, Brooklyn, it loses all of its effect. It moved so far away from the comic. And while that's essentially not so much of a big deal, they could have told an interesting story, but they didn't. They told a boring, lifeless tale for the greater part of 2 hours. The Phoenix character herself was reduced to stares and a couple of one-liners, and you could pick out what they were because they were both featured in the trailer. I can't control it. Something's happening to me. These were the only lines that were being spoken by Sophie Turner through the entirety of the movie. And then what else did we get? We got the camera fixed on her face so we can get her patented Game of Thrones sad stare. Only this time with fiery veins in her face. This Fox network chickened out so much they didn't even let the Phoenix look like the Phoenix because Captain Marvel had fire around her. These are some of the rumors of some of the changes that were happening. Oh, well, Captain Marvel's end battle was a space battle, and Captain Marvel is all covered in, like, flame, so we don't want to have it look like that. If you would have came out first, people might have even actually thought this was better, because Captain Marvel was shit at the end of the day. So you changed all of this and made everything even worse. Even worse. What are the rest of the X-Men doing? Well, I don't know why any of them were even there, since this was really just a movie about Professor X and Jean Grey and the weird alien fucking lady that we got, which made no sense at all. But Cyclops. Cyclops is there to say, I need to save Jean Grey 1,000 times. That's the only reason why he was there. Nightcrawler was there only to pop in and out and make sure that everybody was teleported to the proper destinations every time they needed to get somewhere. Nightcrawler, pop him in. Boom. Nightcrawler, pop him out. Other than that, who gives a shit about Nightcrawler in this movie? He did nothing. He did absolutely nothing. And it's made even worse by the lack of the use of Quicksilver. And no closure between him and Magneto. They're both reunited. They're both back together for this story. But Magneto and Quicksilver don't have 2 minutes to be like, hey, listen, I know I'm your dad. I know you're my son. Blah, blah, blah. It's just something to give us some sort of a closure, to make us feel like you give a shit about this story. Because it's seeming to me that you do not. Moving away from the comic, like I said, not too much of a big deal. But when you take this story and you remove the Hellfire Club, and you remove the Wolverine, and you remove people like Colossus and the Shi'ar Empire, and people that have significant involvement in this, it really doesn't seem authentic. It doesn't seem like a good retelling of this story. Nothing seems familiar. It all seems made up, and it's made so much more simplified by keeping an outer space intergalactic tale reined in on Earth. So instead of having a big space battle, we are now going to have a train car fight, very similar to what we have seen somewhat in Deadpool, only now with X-Men style powers going off, because the rest of the movie they don't want to use their powers, but here all of a sudden in the train car everybody's going to use their powers. Was the train car scene cool? Sure, it was kind of cool, but it was nothing that we haven't seen before from these X-Men movies. Nothing uber impressive. Didn't we see Magneto, like, lifting a fucking football stadium out of the ground, and I'm supposed to be impressed by seeing him twisting train cars off of a rail? The alien woman in this, I don't understand. I forgot what the name of the race she's supposed to be representing, but the villainous aliens were very underwhelming, very undefined. And this blonde lady, Vok, can go Vok herself, because she was an underwhelming and wasted presence on screen. Why they chose to go with this made-up, useless, just meaningless character instead of bringing in somebody of note, somebody that could matter, maybe somebody from the Shi'ar Empire, maybe somebody just to play the literal embodiment of the Phoenix so that she can talk to Jean in like a third person. What is this? And now she wants to take the Phoenix power for herself, and all this leads to Jean Grey leaning into, oh no, I can control it now all of a sudden because I know that I should be using it for good. What? The whole premise of this movie was set up in the first 5 minutes when they show Charles Xavier talking to a tiny Jean Grey, telling her, well, this is a pen. You could use it to write cool stories, or you could use it to stab somebody in the face. It's your weapon, it's your gift, it's how you use it that determines who you are, or some shit to that nature. And that's what it turned out to be. She has the Phoenix Force, she can't control it, she's killing Mystique, she's doing all this stupid shit. She's almost killing Magneto. She's having helicopter fights with Magneto. They're playing tug-of-war with a helicopter in the air. It's just a whole bunch of convoluted nonsense. It made me angry watching this story, and it just bored the shit out of me. It really, really was boring. The whole entire Phoenix Saga is supposed to take place over the span of 3 years. And here in this movie, it took place over the course of 3 days. And it was just the biggest waste of my life I could ever imagine. The best thing about this movie is that the Fox X-Men franchise is done. It's dead, it's over, it's buried. And it went out with a huge, gigantic dud. As far as the finish to this whole entire series, like I said, the first couple of movies I was really big on. I am still a fan of some of the Wolverine's solo movies. I don't understand why he was not brought back for this finale, even for just a cameo or something. He has a very big story arc in the Phoenix Saga. I guess it would have been confusing to see Hugh Jackman reliving the same moment from Last Stand once again in this version with this Jean Grey that doesn't look like his Jean Grey. And the whole timelines make everything all messed up as it is. But it's all said and done, and Disney now has their hands on it. And we've seen what they have done with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And now we could all be excited for the X-Men again. They've been dead for the longest time. I thought the last movie in this series should have been Logan. When they got to Logan, that was the greatest, maybe, movie that the Fox Studios might have ever produced. It tied everything up. All of the X-Men were pretty much dead. It was down to just Logan and Charles. And we had this very compelling tale with Logan and his well, I don't want to I mean, you've probably seen Logan by now, right? But Logan ends up finding out about his daughter and all this other shit. And it ended very beautifully. And we said goodbye and wrapped up that character while wrapping up the whole entire legacy of the X-Men. So everything that came out after Logan just is really unnecessary. And it's just fluff. And it's just the studio trying to pump out as much of the licensed merchandise that they can before they have to truly transfer all this stuff over to the Disney universe. I can't wait for it. Now, all of this is done. Maybe it's just been too much. What if we had like 12, 13 movies in this franchise? Trying to reboot it multiple times within itself definitely didn't help things. There are so many better ways they could have went about this. I was expecting them to try to go out with a bang, and instead they went out with a gigantic dud. And those are my thoughts and opinions on the Dark Phoenix saga. Thank God that the Fox movie saga is over. And it's time to get excited once again. Who's going to play Wolverine? Who's going to be the new Charles Xavier? Where are they going to start the story off? Or are they going to go back down this arc again and fail for a third time at telling what turns out to be one of the X-Men's finest stories? This is one of the best X-Men stories ever put to paper, and they just can't get it right on screen. And like I said, blame whatever outside factor you want. Blame Captain Marvel. Blame Jennifer Lawrence. Blame the producers and the directors. My blame comes firmly at the hands of whoever wrote this movie, because they just didn't get it. And they were given a whole bunch of loose ends to try to tie up, and left everything loose as shit. They started to try and tie this knot up, and they just couldn't get it, and they were just like, you know what, screw it. This is what it is. A half-assed butterfly knot that's barely tied together. Not a phoenix. The phoenix definitely didn't rise to the occasion. If anything, it burned my love of the X-Men to the ground. So here's to hoping for better times. Thank you guys for watching us once again on this episode of Hammer in Hollywood as we review the Dark Phoenix Saga. If you are a pro wrestling fan, this is going to be one of your new favorite channels as well. We have been bringing the hammer down on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live for years already, as well as every single monthly piece of trash pay-per-view the WWE likes to throw at us and tries to pass as entertainment. It comes off as garbage, and I am the one that tells you everything wrong with all of that stuff. We can't say that when we talk about movies because that channel already exists, and although I did highlight to you guys everything that was wrong with the Dark Phoenix tonight, we have a whole lot of other stuff on this channel. We have our WWE 2K19 simulations of big-time pay-per-view matches. You could check those out. We talked about Game of Thrones and their finale. We brought the hammer down on that. We have our Avengers review and all types of stuff available for you on your new favorite episode, on your favorite channel, bringing you some of the premier episodes that a review could ever bring you. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the Team Thor, the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue the Snowball. The most important member of the team, as always, is each and every one of you guys. And if you're not a member of the team already, if you are not one of the 1,675 members of the Sledgeheads, then you could just hit that subscribe button right now and join the coolest, newest faction in all of YouTube that is growing by the day as we continue to etch out our little corner of the internet one subscriber at a time. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show enough to do that. And if you did enjoy this show and you did hit that subscribe button, now's the time to smash that thumbs up. If you enjoyed anything I had to say here today, if you agreed with any of our points, if you think I missed anything after you hit that like button, don't forget to leave a comment down in the comment section below. What did you think about the Dark Phoenix movie? Do you think I'm being too hard on it? Let me know. As always, I look forward to all of your opinions. And then share this video with each and every one of your friends all over the entire world, especially if they hated this movie as much as I did. That, my friends, is going to do it, and we are out of here, and we will see you next time right here on your new favorite channel, Sledgehammer TV, home of Hammering Hollywood, and also the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. We will see you next time. Have a good one.